This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be welcoming a very talented character actress, Annette Helde. She was the coroner woman in Paul Thomas Anderson's ensemble epic masterpiece Magnolia, celebrating its 25th anniversary. And she made a huge dent in the Star Trek world. She was in Star Trek First Contact. She did episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Voyager. And she was in the Mr. Bean movie where she played a nurse. She was in Oliver Stone's Nixon. And she did a lot of Shakespeare early on. She even did a play with F. Murray Abraham, and she guest starred on Chicago Hope and um, Providence and all that stuff. And then she left acting for caregiving. And it's going to be a great conversation today. I cannot wait. This has been a long time coming. I reached out to her in the spring, and now she is available to talk. Also, I've recently become aware of this social media website called Blue Sky. Some guests of mine have left Twitter X for Blue Sky, and I'm thinking of getting an account on Blue Sky. I'm not 100% ready to leave Twitter X yet because I've been pounding the pavement trying to get a following on there for almost a decade now. It'll be 10 years since I've been on there. But, you know, the merrier in terms of social media websites. I'm going to take a look at them and possibly start an account on Blue Sky. So yeah, here is my interview with Annette Helde. Hey Annette, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. How are you doing, Tommy?
I am fantastic. This is such a great honor. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Well, sure. Where are you located?
Modesto, California.
Right. Where in California?
It's in the Bay Area.
Oh, okay. I'm down in Temecula.
Nice, nice. So, going back in time, did you gravitate toward acting early on in your childhood?
I think like a lot of actors, I found it really a wonderful way to express myself, being a shy kid. And if you find the art and it works for you, you're really happy about it. I had a great teacher in high school, and
Mm-hmm.
so I was gravitating toward modern dance, ceramics, painting, and then finally in college I was double majoring and in visual arts and theater, and I thought, well, I can always keep up visual arts on my own, so that's kind of where the fork got, where I kind of went, I'm going to go ahead and study acting.
Yeah, where are you from originally?
Long Beach, California.
Oh, nice. You're from Long Beach. Yeah. I mean, did you go to Hollywood and see like the movie stars walking the streets and saying, "Wow, I'd like to do what they're doing"?
No, not really. I kind of was more exposed to theater, and I didn't go up to Hollywood much. Although I did, had a friend, and we did watch old 20s movies and such once in a while up at the Gary Theater in Hollywood. But no, I kind of was interested in the literature aspect. I fell in love with Shakespeare and reading plays, and so early on I recognized I was going to be a New York actor, more about theater than L.A. I wound up in L.A., but I really was more interested in that. And you find that some people gravitate to. I mean, I wound up being much more of a kind of a character actor,
Right.
so theater was maybe more appropriate for me. Whereas you get some really striking, gorgeous person who has talent and they are wonderful in front of a camera, and that's going to be a great livelihood for them. But I sort of loved the family aspect of the ensemble aspect of the fact that you're working with a group of people and it's live and everything's kind of in your control. more so than film and television, where you sit in the trailer and you're at the, whether or not you're even left on the the inevitable cutting room floor is your nemesis. I'm going to apologize ahead of time if my dogs start barking. Hopefully they're not going to. But
It happens quite frequently. So after high school, you attended UC Santa Barbara and then the University of Washington. Did you do acting in both places?
Yeah, UC Santa Barbara actually had a pretty good department in theater, and then when I first got there, they didn't keep you busy enough with theater. So the first year, I wound up on a rowing team, and I kind of concentrated on that. And it was again the team sport. It was a wonderful way to your first experience away from home, and to fall into that was wonderful. I'm still friends with those women. It was great. But then I wound up, exposed to some great folks in Santa Barbara. In fact, one of the first women's theater groups, Theater Process Theater, I was involved in over the summer in Santa Barbara. I then decided I think I needed to go into a professional actor training program because I'd kind of mined everything I could from UCSB, and so I went to you go to a situation where you're auditioning for 8 to 10 different schools. I was interested in about 4 or 5 of them, and I got accepted to most, but the University of Washington was sort of this underdog school. This guy, Bob Hobbs, who ran it, was just very electric, and as opposed to a little more formidable, schools like Yale or ACT or Juilliard, I just liked the kind of informality and the perspective that this guy had. You went into the audition room at this hotel, and it was like, he's going up and down your resume. He's going, oh, now do a little bit of this, do a little bit of that. And I go, oh my gosh, I haven't done that. That was like 6 years ago. And he goes, well, improv, that's what it's all about. And the little short guy with muskrat kind of eyebrows. And, he just was, it was just more suited to me. 3 years with 13 people. Anyone that you've talked to that's been in a professional program has had that similar experience where it's very intense. And morning to night, you're doing everything from fencing to movement to voice to dance to theater, and then rehearsing and doing a show at night. And so you get that for 3 years, and you're really you're welcoming the new challenges of trying to go out and get a job.
Yeah. So is college where you first learned Shakespeare, or did that come when you joined the Shakespeare Festival in Oregon?
Oh, no, I was exposed to it at UC Santa Barbara. Actually, they were the first people who were responsible for getting people like Patrick Stewart, Judi Dench, Ben Kingsley. Those folks actually came into my classroom with an agreement with the Center for Dramatic Teaching to come and tour the UC system. I mean, I had Patrick Stewart in my English class doing Malvolio's, monologues in our little classroom. It was just such a privilege, man. It was really, really neat. And all kinds of things that I remember Sheila Allen saying, oh, if you want it badly enough, it will find you. Just these pithy, wonderful statements that I look at Helen Mirren now, and I think of some of those women that they just, I don't know if I'm biased or not, but the Europeans and the Brits, I think, have a little better handle on the perspective of if you reach a kind of a star status, ultimately, even if you're, well, I won't name names, but if you're, they still are looked at as a craftsman, and people don't just fall over themselves on the street the way that they do in Hollywood. Or, at any rate, but I did get to do a lot of great classroom work, and then up in Seattle's program, again, some wonderful exposure. I mean, the first time I did Macbeth. I've done it about 3 times, and then I went out afterwards, and then in the 2 summers, 1978 and 79, I was able to get a little bit seasoning with the Utah Shakespeare and then Colorado Shakespeare. And so then, in fact, that's where Jerry Turner saw me. He was in Colorado, and so he was waiting with a contract. In fact, I got to leave my third year early, saying, "I have these roles for you. Would you like to come to Oregon Shakespeare?" And it was brilliant. I had dreamed of going there.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
It really was. It was awesome. Just such a group of people, and they're no jerks. It was a real ensemble. Everyone. If you have a wonderful vision at the top and an artistic director like Jerry Turner, he hires people who, and everyone is respected. You're expected to know the names of the crew.
Yeah.
You're not. You meet people like that along the way. I remember Tony Randall was that way on Broadway because he gave every single person the same opening night gift, whether you were the star of the show or whether you were the second grip. And it was just the way he respected people. That Anthony Hopkins, when I did a film on the set, he was the same way. He'd take cookies and he'd go around to the extras and from the fancy craft table at the stars table and go over to the extras and offer them cookies. It was just
Didn't you do a play with F. Murray Abraham?
Did. Oh my gosh, he was awesome. He was actually the first time I did a show in New York. It was called The Antigone, and I was hired after they were already rehearsing as understudy, and then the woman playing the Antigone got wisdom teeth problem, and he had replaced that part three times already. The director, Joseph Chaikin.
Yeah.
He's an amazing man. Was an amazing man too. And F. Murray was playing. I'm blanking on who's the guy in Creon. And so when I was called at last minute notice, a day, really the night before that I'd be going on the next day, he was delighted. He I'm sure had been in that same shoes that I'd been in before. And I remember on stage, there's a kind of a diatribe between those two characters. And I had been, I knew all the blocking. I knew everything. Well, he changed his blocking. And while he's looking in my eyes, he turns and he walks down stage and he finishes his monologue down right, forcing me to counter and kind of go up stage and face the audience. It's basically taking center stage. He was giving it to me, going, take it. And the gift like that, and that was really cool. And then at the time, he was living in Brooklyn, and he said, "I want you all to come out to my home. We're going to have a big barbecue, and I have a wonderful garden." And he lived across the street from Prospect Park Garden. I forget which garden it was out there, but at any rate, it was in the park. It wasn't necessarily at his apartment in Brooklyn, but he always brought donuts. Yeah, a great human being.
Wow.
Or something. You saw him in Amadeus, correct?
He hadn't done Amadeus or Scarface yet at that time?
No. This was when he was still he hadn't gone to Hollywood and become a big star yet.
He played the mechanic in The Sunshine Boys who helps Walter Matthau at the beginning.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how he went from that to Academy Award winner in just 10 years. It really says a lot about the business,
Yeah. I'm always excited when I see people that are seasoned veterans, like Bryan Cranston. He's been around forever, and then finally gets a role in Breaking Bad, and, like, who is this guy? Well, this guy's been around forever, and he's done wonderful work, The guy playing, in fact, in Breaking Bad, remember the...
You talking about Bryan Cranston?
The Chicken Man, I forget his name.
I didn't watch Breaking Bad.
He is, I remember seeing him in shows off Broadway in New York before he was, a lot of those folks obviously came from theater and anyway.
So according to IMDb, your first TV appearance was Chicago Hope. Anything stand out about that?
Oh, just that I was totally nervous. I was, coming out to having only done theater being on a set. I had done soap. I had to do a soap just to pay for a warm coat when I first got to New York. Every serious actor said, "Oh, I'm not going to do commercials. I'm not going to do soap operas." And, then you come down to your bread and butter jobs, and you go, "Yeah, I better take this. It's really good money." And at any rate, so I was in front of, cameras there, but it was a different scene. So being on a set in LA was intimidating, but it was fine. It was, I didn't have that big a part. And
did you work with Kim Greist?
No.
She was in that episode. No. She's like one of my bucket list guests I would love to get, but she literally disappeared off the face of the planet. She hasn't acted since like 2001.
Oh, wow. I can understand that. I haven't acted since 2005.
Yeah. So then you make a quantum leap by getting cast as Happy Rockefeller in Oliver Stone's Nixon.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I think first I did, I was really fortunate enough to get my first Star Trek gig.
Yeah.
And those were wonderful experience, because once you're in Star Trek, you get to be, if you're under a lot of makeup as a Klingon, then you can come back and be another, in another episode. I'm ushering my dog into the other room.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, and then, actually, and then I had also done another Oliver Stone film before that called Freeway. He produced it.
I didn't realize he produced Freeway. I love that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. He, Reese Witherspoon was wonderful person to work with.
Yeah. And they made you look so official with that shiny badge and that CHP uniform. You walk into the house and you find porn on the TV, so you turn it off.
Such a flattering look. We filmed it in Sylmar in about 105-degree weather. And I remember Amanda Plummer saying, when she's out in the, we arrest her and she's out on the parking gravel, of the parking lot there, hog tire. And she's, I don't blame her. She had a umbrella, she was just wilting in the heat like we all were. And she goes, "I'm going to do this in one take, folks." And that's what we did.
Yeah.
But it was really, really hot. And I remember Reese in the scene, that same scene, she was on the bed, and the crazy meth heads of her parents, the boyfriend, was jumping up and down on the bed and all this stuff. And the bed broke and fell down on Reese, and she could have been really seriously injured, but she just took 10 or 15 and kind of, said, "No, I'm fine. And then we carried on. And, she was very down-to-earth person, I thought, as well as being extremely talented.
Yeah. Yeah, you made an impact in that first, 10 or 15 minutes of the movie. I'm surprised they didn't give your character a name like Officer Becky Erickson or something like that.
I was happy to do the work. But Hap Rockefeller, that was a weird situation because the casting director, Miss Mary Fernew, I think, she thought I was absolutely right for this role and brought me in to meet Oliver Stone while he was on the set with other people and between scenes. And I had not read anything about Hap Rockefeller. It was just like that afternoon kind of thing, and out in shooting in Burbank. And when I got to the set, he was very distracted, working on a lot of things, and I was kind of nervous. And he looked just like a friend of mine named J.D. Johnston, a wonderful actor who he usually plays cowboys and such. And when in doubt, if I'm a little nervous, I just usually go back to my roots, which is, take a big breath, say a prayer, get in touch with, my whole, God on my shoulder, and say, "Okay, just be you, Annette, just be you." So I relaxed into me, and I said, "Oh my gosh, you look just like my friend J.D. Johnston," and he's I don't know if you've seen him. He was in Pale Rider. He's kind of this horse-faced character actor.
Yeah, I've seen him. Yeah.
But that's what I said to Oliver Stone. I said, this horse-faced character actor. And he elbows his assistant saying, oh, did you hear that? I've got a horse face. I said, no, I didn't mean that. I just meant you have a similarity. And I was just putting my foot in it. Anyway, I didn't get the gig. And then she called, Mary, the casting director, called me the next day saying, look, you've got to come back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put you on tape. So I'm going to send you, the text, but there's not much to it, but you're going to come in and just improv for me on tape. So overnight, I went to the library and found everything I could on, like that time it was like you could look through microfiche, in the library to find old periodicals and newspapers on Hap Rockefeller. And I fell in love with the woman. I wanted to do a film just about her. She was a great horsewoman, and I read all about her loves and what she she's just a real down-to-earth person, and I could play her easily. So by the time I got into the casting director's office the next day, I was in a little black sheath with pearls, and I wanted to talk about, my husband just giving me this, a horse for my birthday, and I knew the name and the type, and and we had a wonderful time just chatting. And so then she said, oh, I showed it to Oliver over dinner, and he went, stop, I don't need to see any more. Her. I don't know why you haven't, showed me her before. And the casting director didn't say, she met you the day before,
Yeah.
So that was fun to get it that way.
Wow. And so, yeah, with the Star Trek, stuff, oh my God, you probably pinch yourself every day knowing that you're a big part of the franchise.
It's sweet. I love the fact that they have such a following, and my nephew, I was filming the game, one of the first CD-ROMs in the summertime. Spy, and my nephew was out visiting, and I said, well, you want to come to the set, and we and he goes, Annette, because Aunt Annie was what he used to call me, because I'm into Star Wars, not Star Trek. And he goes, ooh, I have a deformity, ooh, I'm an alien. And he was about 10 at the time, and I said, that's not all, if you go back and look at the early episodes, it's much more than that. So it was a kind of a fun thing. But
yeah, I love First Contact. I think James Cromwell steals the movie as that rock and roll loving bounty hunter, Cochrane.
Oh yeah, when we were doing the CD-ROM, actually, Jonathan Frakes was directing that. Yeah. And at the time, he had just finished filming on First Contact, and he said, "Gosh, I found out I get to do. They like what we've done, and I get to do more B-roll and more, fill-in scenes and such. And do you guys want to be in it?" And we're like going, "Yeah." So that was fun. It was interesting. It was a good look at another example of just really, they don't hire a lot of jerks in the Star Trek enterprise. Literally their organization, and he was no exception. He was told that the guy playing the bartender in that thing we were filming was having chest pains, and the production manager said he's been taking like 1 million aspirin and going, he just, I'm worried about him. And Jonathan stopped filming and said, hey, bring him up here low, and hey, get over to the hospital. Paramount had a hospital on the lot, and get checked out. This is a game. This is entertainment. This is not your, this is your life. You'll still get the gig, and you'll still get paid, and I'll get a buddy in to do the rest of, to do your role, and don't worry about it. And he could have been having, a heart attack. Mm-hmm. I didn't find out exactly what happened to him later, but I just thought that was classy.
It is. Bill Mummy was in one of the Deep Space Nine episodes. Did you work or meet with him?
I don't think so, although I'm not the best with names, but what did he play?
He's Will Robinson on Lost in Space, and he was the kid who does the evil things on the Twilight Zone.
No, I did work with him.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever do the Star Trek conventions?
I was asked to a number of times, and it just wasn't. When I left in 2005 from the Denver Center, it was because my mom had Alzheimer's, and so I made the choice to leave my career and take care of her, which I wouldn't change for all the tea in China. It was the right experience, and she was just a selfless mom, and it was perfect. However, getting out of the business was, had its good and bad, and at any rate, I couldn't leave and go do a convention. And then after I had moved her into a facility, because she lived with Alzheimer's for 16 years, which is unheard of, and we still had a ball. I mean, but I couldn't carry her anymore, so I moved her into a facility in 2014. And after that, anyway, after I met the love of my life, after I'd moved my mom in, we met late in life, and we have my husband and I are very much in love, and I just, neither of us were looking for anybody, but a couple of years after we met, we started out as golf buddies, but he got cancer, and now he has COPD, and so those challenges made it quirky, because I thought, well, I want you to come and do the convention with me in Las Vegas. I can't do it by myself. And we were all set to go, because it was post-COVID, and it was tricky being exposed to so many people, and he was maybe going to have to use a mobility scooter and stuff. And Scott Ray, who was inviting me to come do it, he was willing to roll with all that. I was really looking forward to it, but at the last minute, it was going to be too much on him, my husband, so I didn't. And so we're still like a ... in that could, to be continued, maybe in the future, kind of a thing. Because I would like to. And in fact, I did go to one. I was at Denver, and a friend of mine, Jeff Combs.
Oh, yeah, I've met Jeff. He's a strange guy.
Oh, he's a wonderful guy. He was Seattle with me. He was a year ahead of me in training. 2 years ahead. He was my fencing instructor, in fact. Anyway, he came out to Denver Center, and because he was doing a convention, and he had worked under Donovan Marley, the artistic director at Denver Center, as had Mark Harrier, who was his buddy, and he was he's been in a million things. He's a wonderful actor. So they were, anyway, on the day off, we went to see Jeff over at the convention, and he's one of those who would get up on stage and do a whole, like 45 minutes. I mean, he's, as you can tell from having, I'm sure if you met him, did you do a podcast with him?
No, I met him at a convention years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, he can be pretty entertaining.
He is a funny guy, and he is a nice guy. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say strange as if it's a bad thing. No, it's
no. He's absolutely strange. He's a totally uniquely talented human being.
And of course, his wife Alice was in Beverly Hills Cop and Night of the Creeps. Yeah.
I didn't know that. He and Mark Harrier were two of a group of folks that were really talented at PCPA before they moved from the West Coast to Denver, Donovan's group there. And among that talented improvisational group was Robin Williams from there.
So I grew up a huge fan of Mr. Bean, and I think that scene that you're in, in the hospital is just hilarious. He drops the M&M in the chest like the Junior Mint on Seinfeld, kind of. So I was wondering, was that like a whole lot of laughs being on that set?
Oh, it was more like very serious surgery. He's like some of those comics who, when they're not doing the acting, he was, over the shoulder of the director, looking at each take, going really scientifically spotting out, just his comedy was quite precise, and he was kind of shy to himself a little bit, so we worked out, we had to work out him coming in and swooping the clothes off of him and putting him into the doctor's, garb and sending him on his way as if it was all credible. And it had to be quite fastidious in the way that it was done. So because we had a thing to work on, it was easy to be around him. It just kind of work. I do recall there was an extra who probably was kind of new to the business, so he probably didn't know to respect his silence, before a take.
Right.
And he leaned in and he said, "I think you're really good in this, Rowan. I just really, you're really good in this." So Rowan Atkinson was like, looked over and nodded and just kind of like, as if to say thank you, and then went back to him in his, zone before beginning this long, because it was a really long take, that thing with the M&M thing.
Yeah.
And it was gracious. I'll just say that. He was very gracious. A lot of people I can come to mind that would not have responded that way to the guy.
Yeah, Mel Smith directed. He was a genius, and I wish people, praised him a little bit more. He was a funny guy. Everybody knows him from The Princess Bride, but he did a lot of good stuff.
Boy, you are so well read. You have a great knowledge of film. That's fantastic.
I do. Can you believe it's been 25 years since Magnolia?
Wow, I can't. Just time flies, and boy, live fully while you can, because every year is. I just can't believe how it flies along. Magnolia was, I was at a very small part in that, but I was hired as a day player, though it was a good gig. But I was hired as a coroner, so he did. P.T. Anderson arrange a real coroner to come in and spend like a few hours with me, going over how I would be behaving with this dead body, and what I would be doing, and all this stuff, and to make it really, credible.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so impressed with that. And then when he filmed it, he filmed like 15, 20 minutes of just improvising the whole scene, like a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Made it up, and each time about like 7 or 8 minute long improv, and so he could cut from that and put in what he needed, and it was just fascinating. He'd sit on a skateboard with his little beanie hat on, he had a cigar in his hand, unlit, and kind of scooting back and forth on the skateboard and cycle. It was very fun to be around and watch. And Charles Nelson Riley.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting his name right?
Charles Nelson Riley? No, John C. Riley.
John C. Riley, yes. Mm-hmm. He was, I'm a fan of his work, too. He was really
yeah.
interesting a lot.
Had you seen Boogie Nights before doing the movie? No,
I had not. I went to see it after, though. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it's one of the most brilliant movies of the '90s. He was doing the Robert Altman ensemble, formula for a while, and since then, he's kind of broken away from that. Although Licorice Pizza was kind of an ensemble too, but yeah, it's a brilliant movie. And I read that George C. Scott turned down to play Jason Robards' role because he didn't like all the foul language in the movie.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting, especially since he swore a lot in Patton,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that last shot of Magnolia is compelling. Julianne Moore doing that very spooky smile,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, a lot of really great vision in that. When you have watched so much, you must be very familiar with Christopher Guest.
Oh, I love all his movies. Yeah.
I'm such a fan, and when we spoke earlier about how many film people came from the theater background, mm-hmm. and that group of ensemble characters who improv together just so beautifully, and he kept reusing, as the same kind of ensemble in his various films. But from Best in Show to the one about the singers, and the one about and then later to see the offshoot, Schitt's Creek with some of them in it. But, mm-hmm. Best in Show, oh my gosh, that had to be just one of the most brilliant. That's still one of my favorite films to rent once in a while. Not rent, but stream. I guess I'm dating myself.
So you quit Titanic?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I was down there for about 3 months, and people were dying to get out of that show because it was a long, long time without shooting anything. We were put up at a really lovely place. The Real Del Mar is a resort in between Ensenada and Rosarito Beach, and a very tiny little bar. So you had Englishmen, Irishmen, Brits, Americans, Swedes, all staying up late in the tiny, tiny little bar because you're told that you're on hold. If the wind dies down, they'll shoot that such and so scene at about 2 a.m. so we can use the green screen, and because they were doing all this outdoor work on that smaller ship, alongside the big one, and people got crazy. They were getting, cabin fever, and so it was a little tense. But in fact, I remember Kathy Bates. When we went down to the dressing room, it was a kind of like a big corridor. It wasn't typical kind of trailers and such, and so you could kind of hear what was going on in a lot of different rooms. And it was about 2 or 3 in the morning, and they'd sent a car up to get us, and they raced us down there because they wanted to shoot a certain scene.
Yeah. And
I heard Kathy Bates in the hallway saying, "I can't work like this." I thought, oh my gosh, I totally get it,
Yeah. Wow. So
it was interesting. It was. I begged to get out because I had an offer to do Edward Albee's Three Tall Women at Denver Center, and Denver Center was a wonderful place to work. I mean, they paid their actors better than Broadway. I mean, it put you up in a wonderful condo. I'm not talking like, I don't mean to sound like a mercenary, but just the way that they respected their artists. And they continue. There's very few resident theater companies that'll keep a body of a company and allow them to be there for years and develop that kind of trust with each other where you put out really good work. And so you can do what reps used to be. You do a couple of leads, you do a character role, maybe you do a small role in the course of a season, and so you all support each other.
Right.
Anyway, to be able to get in on that was, and my significant other at the time, Israel Hicks, was directing a lot of August Wilson's plays there, and at any rate, he was kind of describing how, no, it's not cast, and they're very interested in you doing it. And so anyway, yeah, he granted me, he agreed to do my scene and let me go before Christmas.
Wow.
It was like the last chopper out of Nam. Everybody wanted to get out of there before Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great, you played getting paid your rate and plus per diem and, wonderful restaurant and all that stuff, but push come to shove, it's, unless you're one of the main characters, you're going a little nuts.
Yeah. But now you've left acting, you're caregiving, and my heart goes out to you, by the way. And you've got this new perspective on life and everything. But do you ever see a time in the future where you'll at least do a play again? Because it seems like you do love acting, but it seems like your values have changed.
I still love the. I think the world needs all art and theater and film and especially live theater. And I think and you could do only, not especially, like you can't compare apples and oranges. You need all the arts, but I wouldn't say no completely. But I would have to get like for instance, I was asked to do stories on stage. I used to do a lot of their staged readings, and it was a one-woman piece about Joan Didion, and a dear friend of mine who I'd worked with on 3 plays, Wit included, which was one of the best shows I'd ever done. He said, for this, blah, blah, blah. And I said, right now, I would really need, like, to come up early and work with you on this, even if it is a staged reading, because this is a big piece.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to know your limitations. And if you haven't worked for a long time, and you have to recognize where your chops are, how. So it would have to be a special situation.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm finally get a chance to do things like pursue golf, which I just adore, and
Yeah.
not have to have to do 8 shows a week for a whole, from September to May, and carry most of them. It's a lot.
What are your birthday plans tomorrow?
Oh, thank you for your treat. Actually, I have a lesson with a really great guy who's very inspired by Ben Hogan, and he's about 79 years old. And my husband, who is an amazing golfer, said, "I want you to take from this guy. We're working out at Marietta Valley Range, which is Ricky Fowler's range out in Marietta." And he said, and so it's fascinating. He has great stories, and lest I digress. Anyway, so we're doing that, and I'll probably do something, probably go get some Thai food and lay low with the doggies and turn in and watch the sunset in our beautiful backyard, and keep things pretty simple these days.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Love it.
Wonderful. I was curious, is your belly button an innie or an outie?
Let me see. I guess you'd call it an innie.
I read this article years ago that people who have innie belly buttons, particularly the deep ones, they are very kind, considerate, compassionate, and generous. And I can definitely hear that in you, Annette.
That's hysterical. I love it.
Yes, it's my favorite.
That's a very kind thing to say.
It's my favorite part of the body. I'm obsessed with belly buttons, and I want to sing "Happy Birthday" to you. I'm going to do it in the style of Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Miss Annette Helde. Happy birthday to you.
Well, thank you very, very much.
My pleasure. And by the way, it's Juan Carlo Esposito who's the chicken man on Breaking Bad.
Yes. How foolish of me to forget that name. Oh my gosh, he's so talented. Yeah.
He certainly is. Well, Annette, you are a talent as well. And I hope you have a happy birthday tomorrow, happy holiday season, Thanksgiving, all of that. And be safe and hold on to that husband of yours.
Oh my gosh, yeah, very blessed. And I wish you the most peace-filled holidays, and I'm so glad that you have taken your challenges from your accident and applied it in such a creative and inspiring way, and congratulations on your efforts. And I will pick up and listen to many of them now that I've been on the other side of it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Thank you. Well, there you have it. Annette Helde. Ain't she a sweetheart? Oh my God. Very, exactly what I said. Kind, compassionate, empathetic, all of that. I'm so glad that we could talk today. And she was very curious as well. And I love that. And yeah, go watch her performances. Her performance in Freeway was just spectacular. I love that cop she plays in the first, 10 or 15 minutes of that movie. Wow, I didn't even realize Oliver Stone produced that movie. What a total mind blower. Then again, I should have looked that up on IMDb. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes!